Well, good afternoon, my dear friends. This is Sahara, and this is Princess Grace, a true Hollywood princess. And this is FYI Sahara YouTube. And apparently, we have another Hollywood princess, Princess Meghan Markle. And I will be looking at her chart later on to find out how fate has blessed her or not blessed her. I have had the worst feeling about her and Harry leaving the royalty. I don't know why. It's called woman's intuition. I wish them luck, but I don't know why I get this sinking feeling. But I will be doing her chart later. But meanwhile, I want to do a series on money. How do we get money? How does it come to us? And why? I did Elvis Presley and Jim Carrey, and they come from a variety of backgrounds. They're both Capricorns. Yay for Capricorns. I love Capricorns. And they came from different backgrounds, and how did they end up being so amazingly wealthy and rich? And now the big question is, are they happy? But mainly, I'm going to look at money and why it comes to us all at different times in our life. It's very interesting. I have an aspect like that coming up in my chart, and I just don't know what it will be. I don't think I'm going to be a princess. Maybe my prince in my castle is still waiting for me. We will see. Princess Grace has an insanely good chart. It really, you couldn't make up her dream a better chart. It's not everybody that ends up being fabulously wealthy and fabulously famous has good charts. They often have struggles that are, well, they're big struggles. They live big lives. But Princess Grace did have this star-kissed chart, and um, she came from a wealthy family, and just moved right to Hollywood, became a big, fancy, beautiful, gracious star. And Alfred Hitchcock said she had the ability to always show up at the right time, wearing the right thing, and saying the right thing, and she would just knock people over. She's a water lady, and I hope this chart shows up okay. Look at her first house. It's loaded. I don't want to go into a big chart analysis, but I will point out a few things. Scorpio lady, and not all Scorpios are so lucky. Sometimes they have really hard lives, but she had Scorpio rising, and she had Scorpio sun in the first house. Everything about her chart says it's all about me, but she knew how to have that presence. Bette Davis had presence. When you walk into a stage, are you going to have presence? Are you going to have that magic? She did, and she attracted a prince from Monaco, and she went off to be a princess. It doesn't get better than that. And she'd love to go to the French Riviera and Paris and things like that. She loved art, music, you name it, and she had all those things. However, all this water, she's such a water lady. You have water, and her moon is over here in water, Pisces. So, and a grand trine. Doesn't get better than this. Pisces moon, Scorpio, water sign, and the grand trine is here at 19 of Cancer. So you have water, but it's grand trine. And later on, she did gain weight, and she was accused of being dowdy, but rich, and with a handsome prince for a husband. It was quite an exciting life. The fun thing is, she died young. It's a good die young, but she died suddenly and with all the world loving her. So I think sometimes an early death saves us from the sadness of old age. She was already being criticized for being a little plump, but she was still gorgeous in my eyes. But I want to just take the time to show what makes someone fabulously wealthy, and I'm looking forward to the aspects moving into my chart that would be setting off wealth. Or in my chart, it's happiness, and I do look for happiness. There's wealth and there's happiness. Uh, they're not always kissing cousins. You have the rule when you want to look for money. You look at the ruler of the second house and the ruler of the eighth house. This is other people's money. How did she do for other people's money? She got a kingdom and a prince and a castle. And so this is the money of your partner. This is the partner's money and other people's monies. So she didn't do so bad for a wealthy marriage. And but the thing that shows that she was going to be financially well off is the ruler of her second house, Jupiter, which is, luck right there, and it's in her eighth house. This brings another person's wealth to you. If you have the rulers are intertwined in some way, the ruler of the second house and the ruler of the eighth house. We just looked at Elvis Presley and Jim Carrey, and you could see that the rulers of their wealth houses were conjunct. So it showed that even though especially Elvis Presley came from such a deprived background, he, you know, he's still making money, even though he's been dead for 40 years. So it's just an ongoing enterprise. Unfortunately, I published a clip of Jailhouse Rock because it was just so good, and I put it on YouTube, but I got flagged for copyright reasons. So sometimes you might copy something because you like it, but the Presley legacy, or what do you call that? People, they manage his brand name still, and they put copyrights on everything. Okay, so I have to change that, sadly, because it's such a nice clip of his debut on Ed Sullivan, and he did Jailhouse Rock, and that was it for him. He could have just laid back right there, but he didn't, and his life went on for him. And the same thing with Jim Carrey, who came from a middle class home, and Grace came from a well-to-do family, but she took all of that and took it to another level. It's very simple. Her money house money, Jupiter, is in the eighth house. That's it. That's all you look for. And you have, of course, you have this insanely good first house. It means I'm healthy, I'm beautiful, I'm smart. Anytime you have Venus conjunct the ascendant, you're going to be attractive. And so Venus conjunct anything, especially the midheaven and the ascendant, you're just going to be attractive, and you're going to like jewelry and pretty things and all the goodies of life. So that's how she ended up. She had crowns, great wardrobes, cute little sports cars to drive along the French Riviera, and really, but she had a few problems. She liked to party too much. All that water means I love fantasy, and I live in my own world, and she did. She had her own kingdom. Of course she lived in her own world. But the main thing is, where do you find the money in this chart? Because she could have just been a happy artist in Greenwich Village and had a happy life. You have, this, and been happy, but she had fabulous wealth, and that is Jupiter in the second house, and it's just that simple. There's other things. Venus says good things come to you. This is the self, and this is good things. the little goodies of life. You know, you go shopping in Paris and you have crowns. You know, really, you just can't beat that. And she was beautiful. And she died relatively young in a car crash. They say she had a stroke, but she never knew what hit her. And that you die young, beautiful, and a princess, you're doing okay, and you have an excellent and beautiful life. So if you have anything where these money houses are in play with each other, they kind of intertwine in some way. You have her money is Gemini, and money is in the first house. This means her money, where do you find her money? It's over here. It is conjunct her ascendant. And it's also tied into Venus. And this is at a midpoint. And I've talked a lot about midpoints, and I'll show you Reinhold Everteen's book. But if you have Venus and Mercury, and you find the middle point, you add these two together, and you get an average, and that would be the midpoint. And if those things are together, it brings us those three elements together. So you have beauty, money, eighth house, and self. It all comes together in Princess Grace's chart. And we have another Hollywood princess on the horizon. And aside from my foreboding, it will be time to look at her chart. And this is Reinhold Everteen's book. He wrote it in the 40s of the last century for millennials. The 40s were an amazing time, and you must have missed it. And I'm glad all the young people that have come to the planet at this time, because they will have good lives, better than the people of the 40s. But this is a combination of stellar influences, and that's just what it means. When you have more than two planets interreacting, like Grace's chart with Mercury, Venus, and the Ascendant, and that brings them all together. They're all hanging out together. So if you want to keep good company, that's good company. But you don't have to be born with it. You can have things that are moving along by progression that can change things for you as well, like I do. I have a good blessing coming up with a Venus and my Ascendant. So I guess my prince is still out there looking for me, and he's got the castle. We're going to find out. I like to horseback ride. I guess I should tell my future prince the things I like. Chocolate. I like chocolate. I like horses, horseback riding, and laughter. I just want to laugh. So that's what can happen. You have these aspects come up, and you don't know where they're going to show up, but it'll be an interplay between your planets. That if you look very simply, find things that are of the same degree. Here you have, oh dear, sorry, wrong chart. And that was Jim Carrey's chart. It showed that he was going to be wealthy and have a very interesting life. He's like I said, a Capricorn, and I put it with my famous Capricorn videos. If you look up these three things, Venus, Mercury, and the Ascendant, this means the Ascendant is who you are. This is what happens to you personally. So you have this kind of thing, and so you find out the midpoint of that, and if you get the book, you'll see how to read the combinations, how 3 to 4 planets together gets a little weird. What does all that mean? And astrology can be overwhelming. Another thing you can do, let me see if I can increase this. If you just look at the degrees, and you might have, say, 3 or 4 things together, and they're at the relatively close degrees. Let's look at the sun, is in 19 degrees of Scorpio. And then if you run down to a similar degree, you come to Pluto, is 19 degrees of Cancer. That's a trine. Then you add in the moon at 21, and that turns into a grand trine. So you can look at these kind of planets together, and you just can run your finger down and find things that are relatively close. Neptune, let me see. I think Neptune is, well, I'll hold on one second. I just got out my Everteen book. I'm going to read to you the 3 planets that are together on her ascendant. And when you look at the book, it will lay out how to combine the 3 planets. So when you look up Mercury, Venus, and the ascendant, it says the disclosure of one's personal feelings to persons of one's intimate circle. This means she was great at gossip. But also, she could express herself to other people in a deep and meaningful way. And the funny thing was, she had her own kingdom, and she had her own little dance troupe of young girls so that they could learn ballet and things of art and culture, which made her very beloved by the people of Monaco. And it means a love of poetry. That's Mercury. Reading, the intellect, Mercury, the demonstration of love and affection, poetry, art, music, and to talk about the themes of love. So that is those things. Everybody loves those things, but this actually brings these things to her. It'd be like if you like Venetian things like ballet, poetry, and beauty, everybody enjoys those things to different degrees. But if you have your own kingdom, with your own playhouse, and you could be active in teaching young girls how to do ballet and act, that's to a different level. You've actually created these things in your environment. They're a little different than watching a ballet. So, and also the ruler of the 8th house is Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini. And where do you find Mercury? Where's it going to express in this person's life? See, in here, the 1st house, where she lives, her own playhouse, her own ballet troupe, and also Venus is young women, so she had a little ballet, poetry, and things of art and beauty for the young girls of Monaco. And so that actually brings someone else's money to you, and it is in your environment, which is a little different than just plain old appreciating the arts. Not that that's bad, but she would have poetry readings, and she would sit on a stage and read poetry and literature to the people in the audience, and she liked that too. So, creating beauty in your environment was on a different level. So that's lovely Princess Grace, who had nearly a perfect life. And now, like I mentioned, we have another Hollywood princess in Meghan Markle, and I have to look at her chart to see what chain of events brought her to the royal family, and what does that mean. And I have some other charts that show how these things come up in individuals' charts and what it means. Sometimes you're born with it, sometimes it happens along the way. You have things move into your maybe let's say you have like Venus up here. By the time you're 30, it's moved into your 1st house. This brings nice things to you, beauty, art, castles, love, most importantly, and happiness. It can happen anywhere. Probably, if you look at her progress chart, you see that by the time she became a princess, her Jupiter had moved up to the 10th house of where you're going. So you become a princess. This means good things come to you at that age. And but mainly if you have the interplay of um, second house rulers in the 8th house and vice versa, as they saw with the previous charts, you will be blessed with these things. So I'll leave that with you, and I have Meghan Markle. Um, trying to think of who else. I have a whole list of people that show how these things have seemingly happen to ordinary people. It may be your gift when you're born, or it might be happening to you as you go along the road of life. So I bid you adieu. Send me any suggestions for people that you want to know about, and I'll check them out.